4 fields. We, as Adventist missionaries, tend to spend most of our time in the first field, in access ministries, in developing relationships, in helping people. There's nothing wrong with doing those things. But just like this, don't spend all of your time there. Don't spend 3 years there before you start doing the assisting, before you start doing the seed sowing, and asking people to make a decision to study. Okay? Move on. And you keep on doing the access. You keep on building friendships and relationships. Pero wag manatili lang doon. Move on into the next stages as well. Okay. Any questions, comments, alternate speeches? Sa leadership vacuum or mall? This is something that I've just recently started thinking about. Kapag meron ka nang natanim na isang church, natanim na, what stage, which letter do you need to do in order for them to be able to start doing another church, planting another church? If you have a church planted, and you're pushing them to start planting another church, what letter what should you be in? It can be kind of a challenging, tricky question. If you leave right away, they're probably not going to go on and plant another church. So are you modeling, assisting, or watching? Alin ang ginagawa mo? Hindi ka pa ready umalis kasi hindi pa sila nagtatanim ng pangalawang church. So in a way, you're doing kunting pag-aalis kasi you're stepping back. Hindi ka nagli-lead sa lahat ng mga bagay, tinutulak mo na sila. So, pero nandyan ka pa rin. So that sounds like assisting. Pero how about, meron na ba silang nakitang pagtatanim ng church? Have they ever observed a church plant? Kapag sila na mismong nagtanggap, nag-observe sila. Pero ang na-realize ko from experience, and just recently starting to understand this, minsan hindi nila na-realize yung ginawa mo sa kanila. Oftentimes they don't realize actually what you did for them. Sometimes it may be appropriate na mag-plant ka ng church with them. But something that Mike wrote on the first day, I think, is always tama po. Not for them. Isang characteristic ng mga effective na mga CPM facilitators is they never do anything alone. They never do anything alone. If no one will do it with them, they don't do it. Kung walang sasama sa kanila, either to observe or to help out, then hindi na lang sila gagawa. Minsan, medyo masakit yon. Minsan ang boss nagtatanong, ano nga ang ginagawa mo dyan? Yeah? Pero, it's important. Effective CPM facilitators do things with people, not for them. Not for them. Okay. Moving on. Pwede na ba ito? Okay. Just between topics, I'm going to throw one more CPM principle on the board na hindi kailangan matagal pag-usapan. Pero along with go slow to go fast is remember in public evangelism, trying to do 100,000 na tao agad sa loob ng stadium mo para pangaralan mo sila. Pero alin ang mas mabilis? Yung nangangaral sa 100,000 people or yung nangangaral sa isa? Yung nung Sabado, sa sermon, naalala ba ninyo? Sa isa. It seems counterintuitive, parang baliktad. Pero kung multiplication ang gagamitin mo, working with a few people for a long time will actually go faster and reach more people. Counterintuitive ang CPM. Alright. So, ikaw ay missionary na, and you are working in your place, and you know na kailangan mag-train ka ng mga leaders doon. Kasi kailangan may manguna, and someone needs to take over. And be a missionary again. Sino ang pipiliin mo bilang leader? So this is choosing leaders. How do you choose a leader? Gusto ko marinig ang mga ideas ninyo. Someone who's influential. All right? Good. Good in decision making. All right. Excellent. Makes food? Faithful. Okay. Akala ko magaling magluto. Interested. Honest. All right? All very good characteristics. Ano pa? Praying. Spirit-filled. Someone who's always with you. Whatever was down here. Oh, always do things with people, not for them. Yes. With principles. Understands how to properly work with principles versus applications. Good. Encouraging. Yeah. Good. Someone that the people recommended. Okay? All right. What would you say if I told you that if you choose the person with all of those characteristics, halos tiyak, ang pipiliin ninyo ay si Judas? It seems it's another one of the counterintuitive things. Now, there's always a Judas. Hindi maiwasan. There always is. Jesus himself had a Judas. Pero ang ibig kong sabihin dito, missionary after generation of missionaries after generation of missionaries have found that when the missionary chooses, kung pipiliin ng missionary, ang sa tingin niya, mabuting leader, malimit, that person becomes the traitor. That person becomes the greatest enemy, actually, of the church, eventually. So then how do you choose a leader? Remember my story about Ramon? Siyang pinakamahina. Laging nakaupo lang doon sa likod. Nagachismis-chismis lang sa barkada niya doon sa likod. Hindi naman siguro barkada, pero laging nakakwentuhan lang doon sa likod. So may pag-asa pa yung mga nakaupo sa likod. Kasi si Ramon ang naging pinaka-leader ng buong mga mangyan. Yeah. Alright? And then when he got sick, pumayag siya that he would be taken to the albularyo. So, the characteristics that you mentioned, did Ramon seem to have those characteristics? Was he faithful? Was he doing things with my parents, the missionaries? Did he know how to properly divide principles and applications? Apparently not. What we didn't know is that bago nga kami rumating, through dreams and visions, God had already led him to Christ, told him that he was going to be the leader, which he did not want to do, but he was told that he was going to be the leader, and he moved his entire village. Binata lang siya. Well, may asawa na nung lumipat ni Salat, but newly married, so very, very young. He moved his entire village down to Pandarukan to learn about Jesus. But we knew none of that, and we could not see any of that. When I went back as a missionary again the second time, si Aida, yung mababa lang, tapos kuba, tapos like the health message hadn't quite arrived yet. Yung buhok ay parang ganon. Kaya yung mga ukay-ukay na punit-punit lagi ang mga suot niya. She didn't know how to read very well. When we tried to have her preach a sermon, she would do it after a while, kasi talagang tinulak namin, but I loved her sermons because they were about 3 minutes long. Yeah, it's a great sermon. But when she grabbed onto DBS, She became the most effective missionary in the Tauboid tribe. She led a lady to Christ. And then she led her husband to Christ. And then the son to Christ. And then wala nang ibang tao doon. So she moved to another village. And she weathered 2 years of intense persecution. And now there's a church of like 30 people in that village. And they're planting churches up in the mountains. Ang tinitingnan nating leader, malimit, hindi siya ang effective na leader. So again, back to the question. How do you choose a leader? Pray, absolutely. Absolutely. The first thing you look for is probably mali ang spelling ko. I can't spell in English or in Tagalog. They get done what needs to get done. They do the work that needs to be done. When I arrived in Balangabong, there was a young man by the name of Jomar who was just moving back from Manila. For many years, umalis na siya sa pananampalataya, napasama siya sa lahat ng mga makamundong mga bagay. But when he finally said, I want to change, he moved back to his village, and then mahiya lang talaga siya. He had been gone for years. He had been out of the church for many years. He had never really been trained at all. So he was very shy. He was maybe a little bit embarrassed about his past. Nakaupo lang siya dyan. Ako naman nakaupo sa upuan mo. In that pew right there. Dyan ako. Nahiya talaga siya sa akin. Hindi ako kinakausap. He wouldn't look at me. He wouldn't talk to me. But what I found is that when we had problems, after a while, parang medyo nainis itong si Jomar. Because the elected leaders of the church were not doing the work. They were not taking care of the problems. They were not standing up and saying, how do we fix this problem? And so Jomar started, parang dahil lang sa inis siguro, ewan, or parang feeling niya, somebody has to do something. And so he stood up and did something. And he fixed the problem and he got done what needed to be done. Wala siyang tungkulin in the church. So that was my first clue. Maaring itong tao ay tinawagan ng Diyos. Ramon came to the porch and he started teaching my dad everything he needed to know in order to make that revolution in the church. Ida heard DBS. It took her 3 or 4 or 5 times before she understood it. Pero nung nag-grasp niya ang DBS, wala akong tulak sa kanya, hindi naman siya pinili as a leader or a missionary. She herself went out and she found someone. And then she found another person. And then she moved to another village. Sadya. Okay? So they do what needs to be done kahit walang tungkulin, kahit hindi binigay sa kanila ang job. But be careful. Be careful. Kasi may mga tao na gagawin nila ang trabaho. They'll do the work, but for the wrong reasons. For political reasons. Dahil makakaroon sila ng influence to the church. Dahil they'll be looked up to if they're close to the missionary. These kinds of things. So, there's another test. There's another test. Once you find somebody that's doing what needs to be done, then try teaching them something. Itong si Jomar, the first time na nagsermon siya, hopefully hindi siya nakapanood dito. The first time na nagsermon siya, it was not a good sermon. It was not. It wandered all over the place, parang walang clear point, yung mga illustration. I don't think he had any illustrations. At pagbaba niya, talagang pinapawisan siya. Yung damit niya ay basang-basa talaga sa pawis. Nervous na nervous talaga siya. But he had done the best that he could do. The best that he knew how to do. No one had trained him to preach. But he did what needed to be done kasi walang ibang tao at that time para magsermon. So he got up and did the job. So I said, okay, this is my opportunity. So after church, privately, kami lang, inakbayan ko siya, sabi ko, Mar, salamat talaga sa pagsermon mo. Salamat talaga na talagang naglakas loob ka at nagsermon ka. The best you know how to do. Hindi ko pinuna, hindi ko siniraan, hindi ko sinabi yung mga pangit sa sermon niya. Sinabi ko lang, thank you for doing what needed to be done. Would you like to learn how to preach even better? Interested ka ba na mag-sermon ng mas lalong magaling? Mas turuan kita. Gusto mong turuan kita. Oh, yeah. Please teach me. Okay? A good leader is not only gets the work done, but they are also teachable. Those who are politically motivated either will not accept, hindi sila tatanggap na turuan sila, or mag-accept sila, pero para kunwari lang, para ma-please yung missionary, pero kita mo na their heart isn't in it. Yung mga tao na magiging effective leaders ay uhaw. Uhaw, they're thirsty. Ang nangyari, itong si Jomar, he started to enjoy learning new things. And every time that I would turn on the ignition of my truck, bawat pag-andar ng truck ko, maya-maya, nandyan na si Jomar. Sir, sama ko sa'yo. Hindi niya pa alam kung saan ako pupunta. But he wanted to go with me all the time. Buti na lang mabait yung asawa niya. Sa mga mangyan, medyo may problema sa jealousy. Pero yung asawa niya, okay lang. Kaya Jomar started traveling with me everywhere I went. If I needed to take a patient to the hospital, if I needed to get supplies, if I needed to go visit this missionary in this other village, wherever I would go, every time that ignition turned on, Jomar was there. And at first, he was so full of questions. He would ask question after question after question after question. Uhaw na uhaw talaga siya. Now, how would I answer those questions? You should know by now. Think about what we've taught you. How would I answer those questions? Yes, I would ask him. Hindi ko sinagot ang tanong niya. Bad missionary. The Bible student asks you a question and you don't answer. Paano siya matuto? No, it's inductive teaching. So, sabi ko, well, ano sa tingin mo ang sagot? Sometimes it was just a rhetorical question lang. At alam niyo naman yung sagot. Most of the time, at that point, nung una, hindi niya talaga alam ang sagot. So I would say, well, what do you find in the Bible? And he would start thinking about it. Most of the time, hindi rin niya alam kung ano ang turo ng Biblia tungkol doon. So I said, well, get out your Bible. Ay, hindi ko dalang Biblia ko. So he started to learn every time na pumunta siya sa truck, dala-dala ang Biblia niya. And so as we're driving along, I would tell him, so please look at 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Read it and tell me how this answers. Basahin mo at ikaw nang magsabi kung anong sagot dyan sa talata. And at first, hindi niya rin kaya yon. So I would, kasi alam ko yung talata, kahit na habang nagdadrive ako, I would say, di ba nakasulat doon na ganito. So how does that answer your question? So I had to help him almost step by step. Almost word by word at first, kasi hindi pa niya na-gets. But over time, he started to understand the process. And it would be just look at 1 Corinthians 3. Okay, ito pala yung sagot. And then I could just, eventually I got to the point, kasi he would go home and he would be reading, and he learned how to read. Through the inductive method, he learned how to read and how to understand. Mababa usually ang reading comprehension ng mga katutubo na nag-aaral sa mga DepEd schools. I don't know in Mindanao, pero in the north, mababa ang reading comprehension. Binibiro ko sila minsan na the words go in their eyes and out their mouth, pero hindi man lang dumaan dito. Yeah. Okay? So, they were starting to learn through inductive study how to learn. So he would read, and it got to the point where I would say, well, what does the Bible say? Sir, I know. Ito nga ang sinasabi sa Biblia. And then we would just discuss. And it got to, eventually, wala na siyang tanong. Ubos ng lahat ng mga tanong niya. Pero, his questions were specific about things that were problems in his life, but there were other things, there were other areas na kailangan din niyang matutunan na he had never thought about. So when he ran out of questions, then I started asking him questions and went through the same process again. For several years, probably 2 to 3 years. And then Jomar went as a missionary. And then every single person in his village was killed through witchcraft. And he had no more mission field. Wala nang tao. It's another story for another time. So he moved to another place and was a missionary again. And he started working towards CPM. Didn't quite get there, but he started working towards CPM. And then someone else took over from that project and he joined PFM. Ngayon, siya isang PFM missionary. choosing leaders. Start with the people that are already doing the job, doing the work that needs to be done, and then try teaching them. All right. May duktong pa ito. All week long, I have been asked a question. And I'm a little bit scared to answer that question. But I've promised several of you that I would answer it. Pwede bang bayaran or bigyan ng stipend ang mga leaders? So may mga pwede, may mga depende, at maraming mga ngumingiti. Parang takot kayo magsagot. Baka ibang sagot ni Sir. All right. This is a hard truth. I understand that. Jesus said that not everyone can accept some of these things. But I'm going to tell you kung ano ang observation namin. At hindi lang kami ito sa PFM. Many missionaries, trainers, CPM practitioners all around the world in Adventism and in other denominations. At AFM, at PFM, in New Tribes Missions, in all different kinds of organizations in and out of the Adventist Church have found this to be common. And that is that if you pay local leaders, the movement will die. It will die. I do not know. It will not continue. It will not carry on. It will stop. It will stop. I do not know of a single exception where the local leaders have been paid and it multiplied. It multiplied kahit wala na yung missionary. Let me clarify. Maaring nagmultiply habang nandyan pa yung missionary na nagtutulak at nagsusupply pa rin. But I've never seen a single case, and I've never read of or heard of a single case where the local leaders were paid, and even when the missionary left, the work continued to multiply, like we see in the New Testament and in the early Adventist movement. So, nobody can be paid, right? How about us? Yeah. Okay. So there are 5 levels of leadership. Different organizations categorize this differently. Ito yung aking way of categorizing the 5 levels. Okay? So, kala ko may tanong. Level 1 is leading your own group, your own study group. At anong klaseng study group ito? DBS or another inductive study. Okay? So leading your own. This is level 1. Other organizations will call this seed sowing. How many Christians should do seed sowing? Okay, about half of the people answered. I want everyone to be on board with this. How many Christians dapat kasali sa seed sowing? Lahat. Walang ligtas. So then everyone needs to be paid, right? So already we find a problem here with the idea of paying leaders. Number 2 is so at this point, yung mga kagrupo mo, or yung mga nililid mo sa grupo mo, sila naman ang nagtuturo, meron naman silang nililid na mga groups din. They are also doing seed sowing. Amen. Hallelujah. So you're effective enough not only to teach someone the truth, inductively, but you're able to teach them and push them and empower them and encourage them and mentor them habang sila na mismo gagawin nila uli itong process with someone else. Okay? Level 3. You are able to train another leader or another missionary, another worker, na sila rin ay mag-lead ng sarili nilang group at turuan nila ang kanilang group members to lead other people as well. So you're like getting into third-generation disciples. Hindi pa third-generation churches, pero third-generation disciples at this point. Okay? Okay. Number 4. So, lilipat ka ng field. Pero sa sarili mong lugar pa rin. So, kung ikaw ay Manobo, you move to another Manobo village, an unreached Manobo village, and you do steps 1 to 3 in that village. If you are a Taubuid or Kalangoya, you move to another Kalangoya barangay, and you do steps 1 to 3. There. Okay? And then step 5 is you're doing steps 1 to 4 cross-culturally. So lilipat ka sa ibang lugar na hindi ka tribo mo, hindi lugar mo, hindi ka tao mo, hindi ibang kultura. And you do all of these things. Or you help other people. Turuan mo sila na gawin itong steps 1 to 4. Okay? What level leaders are you here bilang mga trainees dito? What are we trying to train you to be? Most of you, ayon sa pagkaintindi ko, madideploy kayo sa hindi kakultura ninyo. You've moved out of your own area and are trying to start a new work in a new place. Now, some of you are assigned to places where there already work, but you're going to be trying to do CPM now in a place that was not CPM before. Okay? So actually, kung tamang understanding ko, most of you are trying to do level 5 at this point. And Mike and I are really, really challenged here kung paano tulungan kayo to jump straight from 0 to level 5. Na hindi pa ninyo ginawa ang level 1, 2, 3, and 4 yourselves. It's not ideal. It's better actually ang mangyayari doon sa field ninyo to help them walk through those steps. It's better to do that. It's very, very challenging to do what we're trying to do here and what we typically the same PFM and AFM. Straight people who have never done these steps going straight to level 5. Okay, now balik tayo sa tanong. Paying leaders. Should you pay level 1 leaders? Most of you say no. This is what all Christians are supposed to do. So I guess we would need a universal income, basta Adventist. Okay? So what about level number 2? Bayaran ba ito or hindi? Not really? Okay. What about level 3? No pa rin? Okay, fewer and fewer people are answering at each question. How about level 4? I hear yes, no, maybe, depends on the budget. Okay? How about level 5? Okay, we're actually already pretty well in agreement here. This is what we have found to be universally true. If you pay level 1 to 3, the movement will die. It will not happen. Hindi talaga magkaroon ng movement na sustainable. Maliban ikaw na mismo ang mag-supply ng pera at magtulak sa kanila, patuloy-tuloy, hindi talaga lalago yan. It will only go as far as you yourself can sustain and push. Level 4, it depends on the culture. Remember kahapon? Kahapon ba yun? High context and low context? Or maybe the day before? Anong ibig sabihin ng low context? Low context cultures. Western cultures stick to the manual. They're very, very detailed. People are coming and going, diverse, but especially what's important here is medyo walang pakialam sa isa't isa. Okay? Like they don't meddle too much with each other. Like you live your life, I'll live my life. Individualistic, there we go. They're pretty individualistic. In individualistic places, if you pay level 4, parang walang pakialam ang ibang mga tao. It doesn't really affect other people. You've already moved out of your own community, out of your own church, you're going somewhere else, and they don't really care too much. But in high context cultures, ano naman ang meron sa high context cultures? Asian cultures, typically, very relationship-based. Nakikialam talaga tayo sa isa't isa. We're always watching and we're always... Okay. You know. If in that case, then usually you can't pay level 4. Kasi they're still in their own area. They're still within their own people group. They're still within reach ng mga chismis. So it does not work to pay level 4 usually. Level 4 should be paid. Should be paid. Now, was Paul a level 5 leader? Was Paul always paid? No. Did Paul stop? Tumigil ba si Pablo nung wala na siyang bayad? No. Kasi sino ang tumawag kay Pablo? I thought it was the Antioch church. Ano po? Tint maker. Exactly. Kung meron, tinanggap niya. Gusto kong po i-point out kanina sa isang ni Michael kanina na kapag meron nga binibigay, hindi naman bawal nilang tanggapin. We don't try to stop them. Like if the pastor wants to hire them as a layman, hindi naman namin pinipigilan. Kung may gustong pumasok at maggawa ng CR, hindi rin namin pinipigilan. Masakit naman yun sa kanila. Okay? But we set ourselves separate. That's what they do. Praise the Lord. This is what we do. Huwag kayong pumayag, huwag ninyong payagan na halimbawa may gustong mag-sponsor that the funds will go through you. No. You don't want to be connected with that. Because inevitably, maputol yung funding. Inevitably, maputol yung relationship. At kung dudaan sa iyo, if it goes through you, damay ka doon. So we want to set our image, we want to create an image and identity that we are here to train and to facilitate you. We are here to empower you, very much like what Farms 2 teaches. Our job is not to get mixed up with your funding. Yeah, okay. What happens if you pay this level of leaders? Several things happen. First of all, it breeds dependence. It breeds dependence. Hindi magpatuloy ang mission, maliban, patuloy pa rin ang funding. Now, serious question. May sapat bang pera sa Adventist Church para bayaran ang lahat ng mga manggagawa na kailangan para abutin ang buong mundo? Is there enough funding in the Adventist Church to pay enough people to reach the whole world? It is not possible. It is not possible to pay enough people to reach the whole world. It will never happen that way. So we cannot use systems that create dependence on outside funding. Okay. It's amazing sometimes how little of a thing can create dependence. So yung tatay ko, nung siya ang leader ng project sa mga mangyan, nung sent out sila para mag-start ng church planting sa iba't ibang lugar, parang survey trips pa lang muna. So they were going back and forth, trying to find places that were receptive, na tatanggap ng bagong missionary. Naawang tatay ko sa kanila. Kasi sa kanilang lakad, anong kakainin nila? Pati rin yung family nila, kasi isang kayod, isang tuka. They literally ate what they got from the jungle that day. So without the husband and the father there, what would the family eat? And what would they eat while they're walking and teaching? So my dad would give them kunting bigas. Like not even enough. Not even enough for their travels or their family. Pero kunti. And years went by, the project grew, na-turn over sa kanila, nagawa nilang lahat. They took over the medical work. They took over the education. They took over the church planting. They took over the church leadership. They were doing really, really good. And then we left. And they stopped. Tuloy pa rin yung leadership sa church, pero yung church planting in other places, tumigil na. And we waited and waited, and we asked and we asked, and we pushed and we pushed. Every time we would come back, pero hindi pa rin sila nagpa-plant ng ibang mga churches. So one year, we got them all together, nagkaroon kami ng malaking meeting, dinescribe namin yung na-observe namin, at sabi namin, bakit? What's going on? And they said, what do you mean what's going on? We thought you knew. All these years we've been waiting. Where's the rice? Umaasa ang tatay ko kasi maliit lang na bagay yon. It was like just to help out a little bit, just to add a little bit. It wasn't even enough. It wasn't steady pay, and it wasn't even enough for them to live off of. Pero there's a precedent. Di ba sabi ko sa beginning, be careful of the precedents you set. Kung ano ang simula, aasa sila na patuloy ganon. So be very careful not to set a precedent. Otherwise, hindi magpatuloy sila sa discipleship. Maliban, gawin mo pa rin yung ginawa mo. The second thing. Ano yan? Yeah. Malaki ang effect kahit kunti lang. Okay. The second thing. Kapag hindi binabayaran ang church leaders, they're bivocational. Tent makers, another term is bivocational. May dalawang vocation. Ang isang vocation ay church leader or missionary. Ang other vocation is farmer or truck driver or kung ano man. Naawa ang mga church members, ang mga believers sa leader. Because he's trying to do two things, two full-time jobs at the same time. And it's really hard to do. Ask any of the Mangyang church leaders. They will tell you how really, really, really difficult that is to do. Because of the people's sympathy for their leader or their missionary, they will step up and start to help. They will start helping with the church work. They'll start helping with the going. They'll go with the missionary. Maybe some of them can't go with the missionary, pero paglipat ng missionary sa bagong field, bagong unreached village, sila ang gagawa ng missionary house. Or they will come and help them clear the kaingin the first year. Or what the Mangyang actually typically do, kasi hindi talaga sila magbigay ng pagkain. The home churches do not financially support them. They've tried and tried and tried. It just doesn't work. So ang gagawin nila, yung missionary, bago sila lilipat sa ibang village, magtanim na siya ng sarili niyong kaingin. Yung missionary katutubong, tukoy ko dito. Native missionaries here. They will plant their kaingin first, and then they will move to another village. Now, for the first year, wala silang pagkain doon. Because they've left all of their infrastructure, it takes about a year to get started again in the agricultural cycle. So the members na naawa sa kanilang missionary, having mercy on him, they will keep up his kaingin here. And then when it's time, they'll say, hey, come home and harvest your kaingin. It's ready for you. Have you heard the term TMI? Yeah, in America, it means something different. Yeah, but too much information sa America. Pero in the Adventist context, total member involvement. Please be honest. Have you ever seen TMI happen? Small groups, okay? The only time I've ever seen it as an entire church is when these guys are not paid. I have seen healthy churches, not always, but I have seen healthy churches na walang paid leaders that had TMI, total member involvement. Pero what happens if you start paying those leaders now? Sabi ng mga members, I'm barely getting enough food to feed my child. And you are being paid to do God's work. So, ikaw na lang muna, wala nang tampuan, basta ikaw na lang muna ang gagawa ng God's work, and I will focus on sustaining my family. So, wala nang TMI. Ngayon, solo leader na siya. That's not healthy. That's not the model we see in the church. And then what happens to the leader? Burnout. Kasi natambak sa kanya ang lahat ng mga responsibilities. Burned out na tuloy siya. One more thing that happens. I can't say this happens everywhere in the world, pero sa mga katutubong tribo, malimit na kapag binayaran ng isa, may tampo na tuloy. May chismis, may gulo, may tampo. Especially sa mga mangyan, may ugali sila na anything we do should be equal with everyone. Not equal outcome, pero equal opportunity. If someone else wants to also be a paid leader, then you need to also let them be a paid leader. With the Mangyan students, Yeah, there was a time, I'll tell that story later. I'll tell that story tomorrow. Nagalit talaga yung mga Mangyan sa mga magulang ko dati. Dahil we were helping one Mangyan student to go to school here at NBC. And he finished, he ended up graduating. But when the next student graduated from high school, they said, okay, us two now. And my parents said, sorry, we don't have enough money. When he's finished, we'll help the next student. And when he's finished, we'll help the next student. The Mangyan got so angry over the 2 or 3 years. They said, stop helping anybody if you can't help everybody equally. It may seem crazy to us, but for them, that's their culture. That's the way they operate. So when you say, Kuya Neil is going to be the paid leader, but I only have enough budget to pay Kuya Neil, you are actually destroying the church, not building it up. Yeah. So, paying levels 1 to 3 will kill a movement. It will not grow. And it will not be sustainable after ng pag-alis ng missionary. This depends on the culture. Kung hindi sila sobrang makialam, pwede naman. Level 5 is appropriate to pay. All right. For those, Jesus says, for those who can accept it. Yeah. Sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. That is a good question, and if you don't manage that question carefully, it will cause a lot of problems. Kasi sabihin ng mga katutubo, kasi tinutulak mo sila. You do the work. I'm here to train you and to teach you how to do the work. But they say, ay may sweldo ka naman. Kami wala. So hindi namin kayang gawin yon. So you need to work with your own organization as to how to do this. We have our own policies at PFM. But for me, what I did is I had a kaingin. All the way through my mission years, I always had a kaingin. And it served 2 purposes. Wala akong pakialam kung kumita or hindi. I didn't care if it made money. Basta meron akong kaingin at lagi nagtatrabaho ako doon. Hindi naman lagi, pero malimit. Regularly, I worked in the kaingin, and I would harvest. It wasn't enough to sustain me, but I would harvest. Okay? That helped. Sige. That helped to allay that problem. And then I also had small businesses. Meron akong tricycle. Hindi ako nag-drive, pero pinapasada ko sa ibang tao doon sa barangay. And then, when I would go home to do fundraising in the U.S. and to report to my donors, I would tell them I'm going home to work to save up funding so that I can come back and help you some more, teach you and train you some more. Was that dishonest? In my understanding, it was not, because I was working. And the effect was that my fund balance was going up to where I could go back and continue working with them. So I tried to, as far as possible, iset ang image, ang identity ko as a tent maker also. Iba ang trabaho ko kaysa sa kanila, pero I was still working for my wages. So that helped. Yung mga hindi nagganon, nagsasabi na, oo nga, meron kaming tinatangkap na sweldo, pero maliit lang, mga ganon. Usually did not go over well. Sure.
Diba nakapag-share ka na sa kanila for specific someone na nag-asa yung meron naman doon sa point na nag-asa sila sa iyo na since kuya Jan, nag-work ko sa PFM, may salary ka dyan, o sabihin natin parang mag-presenter ka na yung tao. Sabi natin, meron doon, may nag-asa na sa iyo na pwede ba akong mag-join na lang. For example, naman yun mismo naman. Pwede ba akong mag-join na yun sa iyo na sa inyong group para may pag-support din ako sa family ko. Kung specific or for example, native siya naman sa isang area.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, first of all, agapan ko yung tanong na yan, nasabihin ko, hindi, wala akong tinatanggap na sweldo. Because everything that I did receive, I actually went out and found that. So, hindi naman talagang sweldo. Ako mismo ang naghanap ng pera na yun. So, honestly, I could say that they weren't just giving me money. I had to go and work for whatever I was receiving. So, I would stop the question there. Now, a separate question, so hindi ko talaga sundin na meron akong sweldo, pwede ka rin mag-join. No. Wala akong sweldo in that sense. Okay. What then the second question, a separate question, pwede ka rin ba mag-join? Kami, our policy in PFM is pwede. Pwede sila mag-apply. Pero, dahil dito, you cannot be assigned in your own area. If you are working for your own people group, then you're here. And you shouldn't be paid. If you are here, then you can be paid. So if you are receiving a stipend, you're going to be assigned somewhere else. So meron kaming nag-apply. Pero na-assign talaga sila sa hindi lang ibang tribo, ibang isla. Totally different area of the Philippines. Yes, in our organization, when we join PFM, we find our own funding. It goes through the office for accountability and para mas madali. Hindi na magproblema ang mga missionary. Pwede mag-focus sa kanilang trabaho. Pero we have to fundraise our own money, our own funding. Okay, it's not the office fundraising for raising stipends for the missionaries. We raise our own funding. Yeah, and it's actually a really, really beautiful thing. It's hard, but it's really beautiful. And you develop friendships and relationships. And you get to teach the church about missions. Yeah, it makes a big difference. In America, the entire mission climate changed over the 40 plus years that AFM has been fundraising there. That's one of the reasons, not the only. Sure. Baka online next time. Yeah. Yeah, we can do mentoring sessions. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Like I said earlier, you're going to forget a lot of this and you're going to get to the field and say, how in the world do I do? Parang madali lang kay Jan. Pero pagdating sa totoo, yeah, feel free to contact us. Feel free to ask us questions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Other questions or comments? We've gone past the break time. Pero baka may urgent tayong tanong dito? Yeah.
Even if you're 1 to 2, is it 1 to 2 never pay, or is there having exceptions? You can help out someone a little bit.
Good question. Thank you. We would help people. Especially those who were starting to, move to other places as missionaries. Pero ganito ang tulong namin sa kanila. May exceptions ba? May anytime? Or like never? What we would do is tinulungan namin sila na mag-set up ng sarili nilang livelihood. We could do a one-time investment in, usually not money, but in equipment or seed or whatever it took to get them tent making, to get them earning their own living. So we helped Ida. Remember I said that Ida, she redeemed her land in order to have legal right para hindi siya mapaalis doon sa sitio na yon. Tinulungan ko siya na i-redeem yung lupa niyan. It's actually secret, so please don't tell anyone from the tribes. Pero tinulungan ko siya. Another guy, I bought him a carabao. Because most of the Mangyan, pwede kang humiram ng lupa pang tanim, basta hindi pang matagalan. Kung just a 3-month or a 1-year crop, you can borrow land. Pero sa kanyang tribo, where he was assigned, it was not allowed. He could not borrow any land. So the only way he could think, this guy literally was traveling 6, 8, 10 hours down to the lowlands, working for 4 days, buying food, going back up, 4, 5, 6, 7, working for another 3 days, coming back down, working for another 3 or 4 days, going back up. Parang ganun ang ginagawa niya. Hindi talaga. May family pa siya. So my help for him was I bought him a carabao. And either he used the carabao to do different paid jobs, or he would rent the carabao out to other people. Yeah. Most of what we did, though, was balik binhi. So we would give, say, 2 kilos of mung beans. And again, kailangan equal. Anyone can equally avail of this program. We would give them 2 kilos of mung beans. They would have to return 4 kilos of mung beans. 2 kilos back to me and 2 kilos to the church. Now, mung beans, siguro, nagtatanim ba kayo ng munggo dito sa Mindanao? Okay, so mataas talaga ang yield ng munggo. Ang pagbalik ng 4 kilos was not difficult. It was not a big, hindi malaking tubo yan. Actually, it wasn't tubo. Balik binhi lang sa akin, and then yung 2 kilos is to the church para sa gawain. We did that a lot. And that really did help them out. Without paying them, per se. Yeah.
This is from personal experience.
Mhm.
One time po, last mission field, so ginawa namin yung, I believe I did community assistant watching. Not yet, but when there's po na watching, ang nangyari sa mga member ng church member na hinahawakan namin. If I will just wait for them to initiate the program, at wala kami gagawin, I'm expecting, and this is really expected na, what you're gonna do is they will run home. All of them. And walang mainom sa church, kundi kami lang ang missionary. And then, ang next na tanong ko po ay, kasi yung nasa mindset nila, you are like paying missionaries. So, paying missionaries na, ginagawa nito, meron kayong matatanggap, so, trabaho niya yan, hindi trabaho namin. So, they will not set, parang magpunta sa front, or mag-initiate, or mag-lead, kasi may missionary. So, actually po, until now, ganun po yung nangyayari. Kaya, like, 10 years na yung church na yun sa isla, 10 years na yung church na yun, walang growing na nangyayari. So, ang tanong po ay, like, I mean, not a question, pero ano po yung ma-advise sa ganun mindset at situation?
Yeah. Pero Novi, it's going to be a difficult answer. I would recommend that you be a tent maker. First of all, there are creative ways to do that. So again, sa PFM, we are tent makers, sort of tent makers, sa pamamagitan na kami na mismong naghahanap ng sarili namin. And I would, Michael, do you have a business in your place?
Yes.
What is your business?
Soy milk, soy coffee, tofu.
And tofu. And wala na yung kakanin?
Yeah,
Meron pa rin.
Per
Minsan.
order.
Per order. Okay. Now, do you need that in order to have enough?
No.
Yeah. Okay. And do you report that carefully to PFM?
Yes.
Yes. So wala namang parang extra pera siya, like extra income. Okay. It's all transparent and above board, but we allow him to have an access strategy business there, small business there. As part of his way of reaching them. And then, so first of all, you need to change your identity. Not from a paid missionary that is paid to do things for them. Okay? You may have to be creative how to do that. And then yung pangalawa is unti-unti. Matagal. Hindi ka uupo lang the first time at wala kang gagawin kasi nasanay na sila. And uuwi lang sila. So in that case, hindi kagaya yung doon sa Cambodia na medyo mapagtiis sila. Dito, ayon sa sabi mo, wala gaano silang pagtitiis. So you would do it gradually. So like yung ginagawa namin sa dorm, I just start with praying. So ako pa rin ang gagawa ng the rest, pero pray mo na. Kailangan ikaw mag-pray. Hindi tayo magpatuloy hanggat hindi mag-pray. Just something, small things. And then just over time, it'll take a while, over time, add more and more and more to it. So the leadership vacuum would need to be slower, more gradual. Yeah, depende sa context. All right. Remember I said that CPM is harder than CP. No guarantees that this will be easy. All right. Kung wala, let us do just a sapat lang na maka-CR. Kasi we're gonna go outside and play. So hindi kailangan ng mahabang pahinga. Alright? Mag-CR lang tayo.